Zeefixesart is probably the most remembered troll and toxic characters to come out of the art community on Twitter and the internet in general. From fixing art from several artists and popular characters, trolling artists here and there, claiming to support fatphobia and black artists in the art community, Zeefixesart grew a notorious profile within the art community, rightfully growing to become probably one of the most toxic and problematic trolls the art community has ever seen. But after an unavoidable incident on Twitter, they vanished from the face of the internet for some time, or maybe that's what they wanted you to think. I found out about Zeefixesart sometime during the lockdown when they started trending on Twitter for fixing various popular anime characters and even attempting to maneuver their way into the Uzaki-chan drama by fixing Uzaki-chan. Only their version was extremely way off from what the character was, and almost no one was able to recognize that was their favorite lovable character. According to the old bio on their now suspended Twitter account, Zeefixesart referred to themselves as a proud LGBTQ Muslim, and I'm not even sure how exactly that works. They also clearly stated they were fat and proud, and also wrote how much they weigh on their bio, because for some reason they felt people were targeting them just because of what they looked like and how much they weighed. Zeefixesart did a lot of art fixing and correcting in their terms during the entirety of their time on Twitter, and the image that brought them to the limelight of their would-be drama is this image of Uraka from My Hero, where they fixed the canon character by making her older, giving her darker skin tone, and adding a few pounds on her frame, ridiculously changing the entire character, who is literally a teenager in the anime, to a chubby adult in a costume. If you put these two images side by side, there is no way you can tell it is even the same character, if not for the costume being the same. Zeefixesart always felt they were correct, and fixing artists' work that they just didn't like or didn't look woke enough for them was always the right thing for them to do. They even went as far as calling the original artist who made the fan art of Uraka they corrected the P word, and when the artist replied, they just went totally berserk on him. Here's the thing, if a character is canonically underage, they are still underaged. I don't care how often you say, but I drew them as 18+, you still looked at a canonically underage character and drew them for your disgusting account. Zeefixesart argued that their version of the character was the more appropriate one, especially since the original fan artist version was a little bit too edgy. But since everyone is allowed to share a drawing or whatever opinion they have on their mind on their personal accounts without interference from any outside person, and if you didn't like it or agree with it, the only thing you could do is to leave a comment criticizing it and calling out the parts of the image you didn't like, which is basically how an open discourse works. But modifying an image and fixing it to aid your argument and validate your point is just pushing it too far, especially since you're not even directly correcting anything but changing it and pretending to show support to black people by drawing black characters and making them overweight to promote inclusivity of people of color and chubby people in one take. It's funny how they never cared about people of color or just drawing any black characters before the whole Black Lives Matter trend started, and then all of a sudden any character that was supposed to be black or just a tad bit lighter than what they were supposed to be was immediately fixed so they could get praise from black people on social media, since it meant they automatically supported black artists and any movement that was pro-black. Zeefixesart then went ahead to fix more characters from My Hero, saying the way the original artist drew the characters was gross and nasty and teens should not be drawn like that. But coming from a person that drew their own version of teens like this, I honestly think they were giving art advice to the wrong person. They also started fixing characters from JoJo in the same manner as their other images, and this time even changing the entire design of the characters and giving them full clothes, since the original designs were rather showing a little too much. A very common theme in all their fixed versions was to have the legs of the characters look like tree trunks, which I totally can't understand why they kept on doing that, except maybe maybe it just was their art style and they felt it was the only correct way for them to portray chubby characters. As bad as fixing anime characters and just popular characters from cartoons and shows was, it even gets worse. Zeefixesart took their fixing art propaganda to the next level by literally taking a commissioned drawing of a real person and fixing it to their own perception of what an ideal female person should look like. Black, thick, and slightly hairy. And somehow in their own twisted sense of humor, they felt like this was a noble thing for them to do to another person's drawing of themselves. I'm just trying to imagine how the owner of the commission would have felt coming online and seeing a different version of themselves that totally doesn't even look like them in real life. And then the person who made the drawing claimed it was fixed, as if there was anything wrong with them in the first place. That is such an awful thing to do. You can claim to fix imaginary anime characters however long you want, but fixing a portrait of a real person and changing their look to the point where you're literally disregarding things like race, body weight, and skin color is just cyberbullying and harassment to me. And even when the artist quoted their fixed version and tried to call them out, they still tried to justify what they just did, claiming they were fixing the artist's ugly art. Maybe don't use a commissioned work of a subscriber because they quite literally do not look like this, and also the idea of fixing art is very lame. Thanks for the retweet. You really need to work on your poses. They're very stiff and ugly. Shading with purple is a no-go too. How can you be so ignorant and self-absorbed to the point where you can't see that what you're doing is just so wrong? The absolute confidence and just arrogance to another artist is just beyond me. Zeefixesart continued to cause a ruckus within the art community for several weeks, still fixing art and claiming their versions were superior to everyone else, and every other artist just hated fat people, which was why they were trying to correct that and change all the artists to better people. And then out of nowhere, someone hacked their account, and this was met with a lot of celebration within the art community because the biggest troll had finally fallen. And as much as everyone just wanted to see them leave the platform, we just never saw that coming. The hacker then changed their bio and the art on the page and literally just transformed the page into something else. They started making parody fan art of Zeefixesart and hypersexualizing them in weird ways, mocking them for being an LGBTQ Muslim, which was just pushing the envelope a little too far. Most people on the internet had mixed feelings regarding what the hacker was doing. Some people just enjoyed the entire drama and the outcome of the situation and were laughing their asses off, while others didn't approve of the extreme measures the hacker took to rid us of this nightmare. I would have shown more sympathy if they had not bullied other artists and made what could be easily described as fetish art, which could make them a hypocrite. By the way, I never thought I would say this, but I do think they deserve to be hacked. While I agree what Zeefixesart did was wrong, I don't think they should have gotten hacked. Not only did they get hacked, but they posted not safe for work of their character, which is most likely based on themselves from real life. I don't think they deserve that to happen, but I still agree with you in the fact that what they did was wrong. What Zeefixesart did for so long was really terrible and just became extremely annoying, especially for everyone that it happened to, but I still don't think they deserve to get hacked and have Rule 34 drawings mocking them and their religion. Hey bro, can you not? Sure, fixing art is really shitty, but posting not safe for work of real people is so much worse. Please don't praise the hacker. No one deserves that. If Zeefixesart was a real person, it would have been extremely wrong drawing Rule 34 versions of their character and then posting them all over Twitter without their consent, even if after everything they did, they kind of deserved it. Aside from fixing official art, Zeefixesart frequently took fan art and made sure to send the fixed version to the artist. They were an unapologetic trash heap of a human being, refused to back down when confronted, and got fitting comeuppance for their actions. Sorry, but they got exactly what they deserved. The Zeefixesart controversy left people with so many assumptions and speculations on who Zeefixesart really was. Most people were fully convinced this person was just a troll that just went around fixing people's art pretending they cared about diversity and were advocating against fat phobia even when no one asked them to in the first place. But some others started to slowly detangle the maze and began pointing fingers at a certain YouTuber they felt could have been Zeefixesart all along. Just saying, I don't have any proof Zeefixesart was creepshow art, but I think them both using the same freckled brush is hilarious and suspicious, knowing that creepshow art was just outed for posting mean girl shit and arguing with herself to cause drama on lolcow forums. Looking at it side by side, I wouldn't be shocked if creepshow art was Zeefixesart all along. Plus, wasn't this the only personal art Z fixed? The rest was commercial art, wasn't it? Now these are all pretty big assumptions, especially since there wasn't any direct evidence that could back these claims. But then that also doesn't mean we can just automatically discredit them and label them as false, especially after the entire drama that happened with creepshow art and how she was exposed to be pretending to be another person while calling others out and stalking another fellow YouTuber. Now, placing both drawings side by side, we can see that they both use the same speckled brush in both of their drawings to emphasize the freckles on the characters. But because two artists used the same brushes in both of their images, that just doesn't make them the same person, especially if both drawings do not look the same or even have a similar art style. But placing these particular drawings side by side with each other, things begin to get a bit more interesting. The line weight and thickness of both drawings look almost the same and could pass as have been drawn by the same person. But what even stands out more than anything else is the overall style of the face and the way the features are drawn. The drawing from creepshow art has the same style of nose and blush that is seen in almost every drawing from Zeefixesart. Even the eyes look slightly the same. Now a betting man will say they were probably drawn by the same person, and from the looks of it, the chances of this happening are far more than likely. My good friend Thumin made a video addressing the Zeefixesart controversy, and she too had her assumptions on the identity of Zeefixesart, and she talked about it in her video.
However, I do wholeheartedly believe that Z was a troll who hated quote-unquote SJW artists and thus decided to make this caricature of them by being outrageous with their fixings in order to get others to despise the evil SJWs as well. Last but not least, the third theory is that Zeefixesart was actually creepshow art all along. I know, this is a crazy one, but hear me out. This theory was brought up on Twitter after creepshow art was exposed for having alts, faking her hacking, and other things which I won't go into in this video. Some believe that there are many similarities with creepshow art's art style compared to Zeefixesart. Apparently they both use the same freckled brush, which also raised suspicion amongst Twitter users. There are other similarities in their stories, like how Z claimed to have been hacked and creepshow art also claimed to have been hacked. Some also find it odd that the only YouTuber Z targeted was none other than creepshow art. Z's normal targets were anime characters from games or shows, but suddenly they just chose to single creepshow art out and fix her art instead. Could this have all been a coincidence? Well, I must say that while this theory sounds interesting, I'm not fully convinced, nor do I believe in it personally. I feel like while there are some odd coincidences, I would need more evidence before I could fully commit to believing that theory. This is also because when creepshow art was exposed, everyone ran around accusing every living human being of being creepshow art. Heck, someone even accused me of being creepshow at one point, and I have an accent, so there's that.
Thumin recently passed 300k subscribers on her YouTube channel, and with the quality of videos she makes, carefully listening and understanding both sides of a situation and expressing her opinions with well thought out commentary, I'm surprised she doesn't have way more subscribers. So please go subscribe to her channel and watch every one of her videos because they're really just that good. Well, we all thought Zeefixesart was gone for good, especially since they probably lost all access to their account and there was no way for them to come back on Twitter again trolling artists, even if they tried to open a new account, because after Twitter suspended the account that got hacked, there was no way they were going to be able to open another account using the same device or the same IP address. Everything seemed fair and well, the future of the art community shining bright like a diamond, making Rihanna proud. But little did we know that behind the scenes, Zeefixesart was busy plotting their return to the internet once more. But this time around, they decided to switch social media platforms and start from the ground up once more, terrorizing artists. While everyone thought Zeefixesart was buried by the hacker on Twitter, Zeefixesart took to Facebook, created a page, and has since been using it to share their epic fixed art and attack artists they don't find appealing. Bruh, I found Zeefixesart on Facebook and they fixed the Genshin husbandos, Venti, and Paimon. Not only that, but they got my girl Ariel from The Little Mermaid. Now searching for the name Zeefixesart on Facebook won't bring up any result. I guess they figured out they shouldn't use their name on Facebook so as not to draw unwanted attention to themselves, so they decided to name the page I Hate Fatphobic. The page has almost 7,000 likes, and on the about page it literally says, "All of my suffering on this world has been at the hands of humanity, particularly fatphobic people," which is such a bold claim to make since they never really showed us any proof of anybody harassing them online because of their weight, but they always kept on insisting they hated fatphobic people and that their life is a mess because of fatphobic people. They seem to have continued fixing art, and the one that just took me unaware was their version of the Sailor Moon Draw This in Your Style. They did the usual thing where they changed the character black and then proceed to making them overweight and covering them with hair, and then doing everything they could to make a really bad drawing. They also started fixing some NFTs and selling their own stolen versions of these NFTs of other people's work, which just gives me a headache every time I try to think of that entire scenario. And aside from that, their art became notably worse, and at this point it's so obvious that this person is clearly trolling, and I don't even see the point in this anymore. They still have people who believe what Z is doing is justifiable and support them, but for how long do they intend to keep this trend of fixing art going? Their last post was on the 31st of December, and since then they have not posted anything else on their Facebook page or updated it with any new information. The account is now dormant and inactive, with most of the reviews being mostly negative and discouraging people who stumble across the account from engaging with it. It seems everyone finally saw through Zeefixesart trolling, and no one was falling victim to any more of their race baiting and fatphobic representation perspectives, and honestly I think it's best if it remains this way. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. Please leave the video a like and subscribe to my channel if you're new here. I'll see all you pretty penguins in the next video. Bye.